Welcome to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia, and this is my mother, Ima. Hello, Ima.
Hello, sweetheart. Good Erev Shabbos to you. And
Yeah.
have you recovered from the harrowing experience you had a couple of weeks ago of getting married?
Oh, no, it was great. No, thank God.
Yeah.
I just been so busy with everything. That's why I kind of forgot
Yeah.
the podcast this week, and I was like almost forgetting the whole thing until you called.
I was just joking around, like I said, harrowing experience. I mean, like let's face it,
No, I get it.
A wedding,
I get it.
It's stressful. It's thank God it's a simcha, but it's still stressful.
Yeah, it's
knowing
fine.
about the food, the caterer, all those people, making sure everybody has, you want to make sure everyone has a good time and everything's okay.
I got great reviews.
Good.
Reviews.
But you heard, you heard what happened when the the man in charge of the hall, who's the manager of the hall, came in. He wasn't supposed to come in that early.
Did you
hear the
really?
Story?
No, you didn't tell me.
What happened was, here's what happened. He told me it was real hashgacha practice. He wasn't supposed to come in that early. He was just going to come in like later on in the afternoon, because after all, it was the chuppah was called for 5:00. And what happened was he forgot his tefillin. He left them. There's a shul there also, and he left them there at the shul. So he had to come there early in the morning to get them. And he walks into the building and he said, I don't know how much, but there was a flood. Evidently, there had been a rain the night before. Yeah. And he came in. I don't know how much water was on the floor, like 2 inches.
Water
more,
pipe
maybe?
burst. One of the bathrooms was closed because of it. I remember that.
Yeah. And so he said he was able to call the crew, the maintenance crew, and they all came in, with the wet dry vacs, and they were able to have the hall ready in time. But he said, had that not happened, had he come in regular time, we would have had like a wow, really. It would have been yes. See, it's your mazel.
Baruch Hashem.
You bring
Hashem.
brachas. Yes, you brought brachas to me and Tati. Yes.
Yes. Oh.
So anyway, I wanted to touch on something. Remember last week we were talking about botched up weddings. We're talking about botched up weddings, like yours almost got flooded. But after I got off the phone with you, I remembered an incident in my family with my parents.
Oh yeah. Whatever happened to your parents?
Yeah. Okay. Here's what happened. My father's father did not like my mother. He wanted my father to marry the shoe girl, the girl whose family was rich and had a shoe store.
Before. I'm not sure on the podcast or whatnot. Yeah. Okay.
So what happened was, my mother's father, about like the week before the wedding, called the caterer to see how everything was going, and with the food and everything and the plans. And the caterer said to him, the groom's father called and said the whole thing was off. The whole thing was canceled. And of course, my mother's father, my maternal grandfather, was not happy. He said, no, it's not off, which I'm a little surprised. I guess in those days, I think they were very trusting. I mean, in this day and age, you would, whoever is responsible for the contract would be the only one, it seems to me, that the caterer would talk to. I mean, if, or at least call, the family who signed the contract. But evidently in those days, they weren't that careful when it came to stuff like that. And so, of course, my maternal grandfather, my mother's father, calls my father's father and says, what are you doing? And my father's father said, oh, he didn't like the menu.
God.
That's why he did that. So needless to say, my mother's father said to him, well, I lost my deposit because of you, and I want you to pay the deposit now. He said, I rescheduled. I scheduled the wedding, and I have to pay the caterer another deposit. And he says, I'm not, I want you to do that, since you were the one that canceled the wedding without telling anybody. I mean, canceling weddings without telling people can, it's kind of like, I guess a big social no.
Yeah, it's a no. It's a thing you shouldn't be doing.
But anyway,
Anyway,
yes.
so speaking of which, the music in the wedding was really nice. But I was wondering in general though, like if there was going to be a song like that you like someone had to be in hell for and you had to listen to the same song over and over again, what song do you think should be playing?
Well, actually, I've been through that experience. Do you remember the story I made up called Licky and Sticky?
I do remember that Lick and Sticky story. Yeah,
Right.
it's
Well, I
majorly fat
recorded
shaming
it.
and causes major body dysmorphia. Continue.
Oh, come on. But anyway, maybe I don't, want me to
Nah.
sing it? No.
No.
That would
It's
take up too
fine.
much
It's fine.
time.
Well, you know what? We'll have
So
an episode.
anyway, what?
Yeah.
Why?
All right. No, I'm saying we should probably have an episode
Uh-huh.
about child stories, and it'll just be you telling child stories. But
Well, anyway, this story of Lick and Sticky, what happened was one of the preschool teachers that I work with wanted some more material for the kids. And I told her I'd made up, some stories, whatever. And I said, I'll send them to her. So I recorded them on the iPhone and sent them over to her. And the kids really liked that Licky and Sticky story and wanted to hear it over and over and over again. So as I'm walking down the hall, last year, almost every day, all I heard was Licky and Sticky and Licky and Sticky and Licky and Sticky.
oh
I thought
god,
to myself, this is payback time. I'm getting it back now for
Well-
all the times I told that story to my kids. And even one of the maintenance workers, this female maintenance worker, hears it and she walks over to me. She goes, "What's this Licky and Sticky all the time?"
I remember though you being able to go ahead and like repeat little ditties over and over again, and it would drive us insane. Like
Well, that's why I got my
pick
pay.
it
That's
up,
why I got my
pick it
payback.
up, don't leave it for your mother. Pick it up, you cannot do no other. Pick it up, it's the thing to do. Pick it up, remember you live here too. And like you just put that on repeat. But also your ability to wake us up in the morning was funny because you can hit the same note over and over and over again with the same pitch in the same sentence. So it's not like someone saying, time to get up. Come on, time to get up. It would be the same tone over and over again, like time to get up, time to get up, time to get up, time to get up. Like just on repeat. It would just drive
Well,
you nuts
I-
waking up at
I
7
used
o'clock
to-
in the morning going to
I
school.
used to call it Slurpee time because I woke you guys up at 7-Eleven.
Why 7-Eleven?
I used to go, I used to call it Slurpee time, 7-Eleven. Because I felt, and I experimented a little bit with times, waking you up, and I found 7 was a little too early. You guys, just couldn't, you were too tired. 7:30 was way too late. We had to get out of the house at, I think we had to leave like 10 after 8, something like that, or 8 o'clock.
Chakra started 7:45.
Was at TA 7:45.
Yes, at TA, Chakra was 7:45.
Okay, your memory is better than mine. So, but I remember somehow waking you up that not 7:10 but 7:11. Somehow that was a good time. That was you weren't overly sleepy. That seemed to be a very good time to wake you up.
I
Do
tried.
you remember that time, by the way?
Yes.
I think
Super
when you were
Bowl.
12 years old, that you ditched, no, not the Super Bowl story, but you were ditching.
Oh my God.
Chakras.
I was
and
doing
I
it for like
caught
a year and a
you.
half. It was 7th grade. I got caught. I was doing it for the whole 6th grade and half of 7th grade.
You remember how I caught you?
Yes, because I was foolish enough to take the Game Boy with the Game Boy game from Yosef, and Yosef wanted the Game Boy back. So you went to Chakras to look for me, and I wasn't there. But what was funny was the way Tati punished me was he didn't punish me at all. He just looked me dead in the eye, and it was just a quiet moment. And he realized I realized what I did. I said I was sorry, and I think he didn't say anything particularly, but something along the lines of like, "All right, now it's time for you to realize that, you have to go to Chakras. You're becoming bar mitzvah." And I never missed a Chakras afterwards ever again.
That was good. That was a very good way of him handling it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting him to like beat me or smack me or yell at me or something like something really, really bad, but he didn't do anything like that.
Nah. Well, what was it? Oh my gosh. Oh boy, you hit on. Oh yeah, Yosef. This is a real Rebbe story. Very eerie Rebbe story. When Yosef, I think I'm trying to think if he had already gotten bar mitzvah or was very, very close to it. So he wanted me to look in the Rebbe's letters, and yeah, the Rebbe was already deceased. So he wanted me to look in the Rebbe's letters and he wanted to ask the Rebbe for a bracha for his bar mitzvah by, looking in the Rebbe's letters. We do,
Yeah.
for those of you who are not Chabadniks, this is like, I guess it's like how would you say it? Supernatural
Seance?
type thing that we do, I guess.
It's not a
So anyway, it's
okay. I mean, I can explain a little bit of it, and then we could go back to our regular programming. What it is it's you're trying to connect to your spiritual leader, and you look through the letters that he wrote to other people with similar problems, and you try to connect it to yourself. So what you do is there's a books of his letters, and you go to the category of what you're looking for. For instance, you're having trouble making money and you're looking for a new business. So there's a section that talks about new business. So you sift through the letters until you find one that makes sense to you, and you take that into consideration. That's what you should be doing.
Well, I did it a little differently. What I would do is I would take a book of the Rebbe's letters, and I would say Kavod Kedusha Admor, and I would say my question, and then I would kind of like shake up the book a little bit, like, move the pages around
like
a little
an
bit,
8-ball.
and then let the book open naturally by itself, and then I would look at that page to see if it was apropos to what I asked. And sure enough, I did that, and yes, it was a letter to a boy who was getting bar mitzvah, and it was a bracha for this boy getting bar mitzvah, and the entire letter talked about the importance of saying tachanun. And I was a little surprised. And I said to Yosef, my goodness, I'm very, very surprised about this letter. I was expecting something like about, being a Yireh Shamayim and being blessed with good health and, using your good health to do mitzvahs. But Dafka Tachanun? I said, I wonder why we got this answer. Yosef put his head down and said to me, Ima, I have not been davening Tachanun.
Interesting. That's a really cool story.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I remember us as being kids, and like I like the fact that our family never had an issue with like being told not being around people because of bad influences, except for I think one person we were told not to hang out with. But I guess for you, I want to know, what was the moment you looked at maybe one of your friends and realized that they were no longer a friend and you were trying to cut ties?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. Well, going back to what you commented, the reason I never believed in saying you're not allowed to be with that person, yada, yada, is because unless that person was involved in real serious criminal activity that I knew about, for sure, which I think that one person was. But if it was just some kid that was, a little on the wild side, even a kid that was maybe using foul language, I feel this way that I wouldn't want anyone doing that with my kids. And unless and thank God you kids, did not get into any very, very serious, horrible trouble. I'm one of these people, let's put it this way, and people have criticized me for this in a way, especially, when I was in my dating stage, that they say, you're the type of good person who you like to think good about people and you like to give everybody a chance. And somebody said that they felt that I'm too much that way because when people offered me shidduchim, I would never say no. I would take any shidduch they offered to me because I felt that, there's a reason for this person offering the shidduch, and I should give this young man a chance.
I understand. I understand
go
that
out
logic.
with him, see what he's like, give him a chance. But some people, criticized me and said, listen, you're going out with guys that are just totally not for you, like way, way in left field. And I said, but I just believe in, going out with these guys, hearing them out and seeing, let them, seeing what kind of person they're, and just like I said, just giving them a chance.
See, I with that logic when it comes to dating, I think with shit of dating, it's a little different, but it's more of like you're trying to feel out what you're looking for. And sometimes, and I'm a really strong believer in this, sometimes you should take an extreme one end or another to find the balance that you have, because how do you know what you want or what you don't want if you don't really choose anything, or you're constantly just waiting for that right moment? You have to like
Right.
make that
Absolutely.
moment.
Right. Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Especially, I tell you the truth, I don't like, I hear stories, I've heard stories lately about some, from people who, like older from people, that one of the reasons they're having trouble finding shidduchim is that their families are very big on yichus and what's it called, gej, is that it?
that's Chabad.
And
Chabad uses gesh. Everyone else says
and
yichus.
okay, so, and I am so against that. I'm sorry, everybody has the right to stand on their own merit, no matter what their family background is. I mean, look at the imahos. Look at their background. I mean, if at the imahos were looking for shidduchim in today's day and age, I don't think they'd have a real hard time finding somebody. People say, look at that girl's brother. He's from Russia. You don't like get mixed up in that family, that crazy family.
Yeah, I mean that's just, well, that's where it gets to what I've noticed when it comes to just like really messed up things people say to each other. Like I was thinking, like, what's the worst thing anybody could ever like say to a child or never say to a child? Like I don't know. Sometimes it's with like good intentions, like saying someone is like so talented or you have a gift. It throws kids off, and like it's hard to understand. Like they think that hard work shouldn't come to them, or they don't know how to do hard work, and like it's just,
I mean, are you talking about parents and teachers giving discouraging statements? Is that? 'Cause
no,
I'm having a hard time understanding what
well,
you're talking about.
I understand. I'm talking about, like, I remember, because the weird thing I remember growing up, sometimes being told that like, oh, you're very smart, you have a talent, and I didn't get that so when I got older, there were moments that like, oh, I'm smart, I should get this right away. And because I didn't understand something right away, I started putting myself down, saying, well, maybe I'm just stupid because I didn't get something right away. When really it just, life in general takes hard work and effort and time. And
Well, Mike is just the opposite. I was always being told that I was stupid.
oh,
I was always being told that I was stupid and that was no good. It would never be any good.
wow. Geez, talk about
And,
encouragement. I see it kind of swung the other way around in the 90s, where it was just, it was like overly positive praising that made people start like questioning their reality. I mean, I'm not saying like, I'm just saying life is a journey and you have to find your balance. But
listen, there's nothing wrong in being, I'm in education. We were debating this one time in one of my education classes. How much praise? What type of praise? Is there, a balance? You don't want to be overly critical either. So the conclusion that the class came to was honesty is the best policy, basically. Name calling, put down, that's not going to give any information. If a child is talented in an area, tell them, you seem to be very talented, say like in music. You seem to be very talented in music. Maybe you should take private lessons, that type of thing, or look into the idea of maybe making a career out of this instrument or this musical area where you are. Or if someone's talented in art, you can be honest with them and say you really seem to have a very big talent in art, and tell them, like, point out to them the specifics. Like, I like the way you mix these colors. Look at all these nice varied colors you're using. You seem to have an eye for shape and for shading. That seems to be an innate ability. That's really good. And then as far as like criticism goes, you have to be honest with a kid. And if a kid is having trouble in a certain area, you have to sit down with them, say like in math, you have to sit down with them and say, you seem to be having trouble, say like adding 2-digit numbers. let's sit down together and let's work this out. And we'll work on it. We'll work on it together. And that's how a teacher does it, and have the kids start, like, for instance, in math, I did that with you. I had you start the problem. Remember, you
Oh
were
my
having
God, I
a hard
hated it.
time in algebra.
I hated
And
it.
and I had you like begin working on the problem. And in the beginning of the problem, you would start, and stage 1, stage 2 was correct. But then you would get to a point where now you were starting to go in left field. Now this was not the right technique, or the right I could say formula. And at that point I would stop, because what I wanted to do was, and what every teacher or parent should do, is see exactly the point where the kid is not getting it. And the only way to do that is have them begin the problem, or begin the composition, or begin whatever whether it's writing, whether it's math, have them begin it and say, okay, this part is good. This part is good. Yeah, but this is correct. This is correct. Here's the part that you're having trouble with. That's the best thing to say. Here's the part you're having trouble with, or here's the part where it's not quite correct. And let me show you now what to do at this point. And then you show them exactly what to do at that point, and then have them repeat that, have them copy it and then have them try it on their own. See, to tell somebody, this is really bad education. I've seen parents do this. You're just going to have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
That puts the kids, like, the kids need guidance. They're not going to be able to figure it out themselves. There's a reason why this child is a child, and you are a parent, or you are a teacher. You're there to guide them. So show them exactly where they're messing up, or what they have to do to correct themselves. And then there are some parents who they say, well, I don't want to give them the answer. I want them to figure it out for themselves. In the beginning, you have to give them the answer. You model it for them. You show them how to do the problem. You model it for them, and then have them copy it, and then have them try a problem that's the same as that one, but maybe with different numbers. And now they can do it themselves.
Yeah.
But you just can't throw stuff at them.
I used to get so frustrated, because I remember learning with you. I remember this was crazy. Looking back, I'm realizing this was like a lot for a kid to handle. I was surprised that I felt like I was the only one struggling with this. But when I was in TI, first grade, we had to do 20 Pesukim, translate them in Hebrew and English, like a week. And
I agree with you.
We did that.
It was too much.
We did that. Like, I remember doing it with you Shabbos afternoon, like right before Shabbos is over, about an hour before Shabbos is over, just going through it. And I remember just getting so angry and frustrated and not knowing what to do. And then, like, I wanted to take a break, and like, you wouldn't let me take a break, and I'd have to power through it. And it was just a struggle. It was just such a struggle. And just looking back, I realized like how ridiculous that was. Like, what are you
I
teaching
agree with you
the kid?
100%. Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I took you out of that school. I felt that their expectations were unrealistic for a normal child. This one mother, she kept her kids in, and I asked her, how do you do those, like, all those Pesukim with a little kid like this? And she said what happened was she broke it up during the day, and she found herself, like, basically every few hours they were going back to it. They spent the whole day going back to it and going back to it and going back to it, like breaking it up into like segments of 5 Pesukim or something. And I thought, I just felt that was too much. You can't spend an entire day, but maybe for her kids that was what was apropos, because one of them became a rabbi, became a rather well, not, but not everybody's cut out for that. If your kid's cut out for that type of stuff, God bless you, wonderful. But not every kid is cut out for that type of how can I say it, that type of learning.
Education still needs to be revamped. I mean, what they're doing now, like, I don't know, I think they still need to go ahead and revamp everything. Education is very new when it comes to teaching. And a lot of times growing up, I felt it was a lot of forcing a square peg into a round hole until eventually, like, the square peg turned into like a round peg, and everything else was just chipped away. Where, like, it wasn't necessarily like I am me and we are doing this together and I'm learning, and it's a flow. It's more of just a force where you're just like pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing. And eventually you get into something where you figure it out. Like, it's just, you really had to work hard to understand something. I think that's what I learned how to do, is how to just push and learn how to figure something out, with the education that I got, because it wasn't very floofy. It wasn't very like flowy. It was more of like, you just have to bang your head against the wall until eventually something came out.
The thing with education, first of all, in any area where you're working with people, working with people is very complicated, because God created us as very complicated creatures, and God purposely created us to be very complicated so that nobody can totally control another individual.
Yeah.
And the problem with education, when you're dealing with something like education, where you're dealing with human beings, especially children, like I said, complicated creatures, and one technique that might work for one child, that technique might not work for another child, because they're thinking along a different line. So how do you teach to a class of like 20, 25 kids so that they all understand, and they're all able to, how can I say that they're all able to succeed in learning these skills? And another thing too with education is how much we want to, the trend is most people today really want education, learning to be fun and to be pleasant and to be a positive experience for children. But sometimes it comes to a point where, hey, the child just has to memorize in certain areas. Memorizing and regurgitating is basically what you need to do to learn it. How else? I mean, you can make games out of it or something, but in the final analysis, in order to be able to evaluate that child, there has to be some sort of test where you can see very clearly where this child is standing, so you know what skills they still need to work on and where they need help.
True.
It's very complicated. It's not easy.
Yeah, I know. I want to talk about this longer, but we're out of time.
Sure, but you have to be happy though in one thing. We have come a long way from my father's day, where the teacher carried a rod.
Yes.
And hit you over the hand with it when you weren't paying attention or learning.
100%.
I hope we've come a long way from that.
I think we have. All right. Thank you so much, Ema. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
You too. Have a great Shabbos, honey. Love you.
Love you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother episode. Please like and subscribe our Facebook group at Jewish Boy Calls His Mother Podcast, and check out our YouTube channel, Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I know you'd like it, and my mother would appreciate it too.